Hi, my name is John, and this is Truth Tuesday. A few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to preach on Romans chapter 11 through 13. And while I went long and went through a whole lot of things, there were some things that I didn't get to. One thing in particular was verse 7 in Romans 13. Now, if you know anything about Romans 13, or if you've watched that, you know that this is talking all about government, leaders, governing authorities, rulers, kings, however you want to describe it. And it made me think about leaders in our lives. You see, the leaders in our lives make or break what goes on, right? Now, if you're in a team, the leader on the team can make or break that team. The same way with organizations, the same way with churches, the same way with families, and in the same way with government and culture and society as well. And so the leader really has a lot of responsibility on them to do what they need to do. But God also gives responsibility to the followers as well, and how they should treat their leader. Not that they would treat them that in any way other than how God tells them to treat them. And Paul tells the church what attitude they should have towards their leaders. In Romans chapter 13, verse 7, it says, "Pay to all what is owed to them. Taxes to whom taxes are owed, revenue to whom revenue is owed, respect to whom respect is owed, and honor to whom honor is owed." You see, we are to be respectful and honest. We are to be honest with our finances and respectful with our attitudes. And in this situation, Paul is talking about governing leaders. And I would also say that he's probably talking a lot about just leaders in general too. It's a good practice to be honest. It's a good practice to be respectful to your leaders. Paul goes on here to tell the people to be subject to them, and he also points out that by being subject, you listen, you respect, and you are honest with your things. You see, cheating on taxes, that's a portion of our lives that can be challenging, and for the most part, I don't see a whole lot of people cheating on their taxes. So if you're cheating on your taxes, don't do that. If you're being dishonest with your finances, don't do that. Be honest. Obviously, we should be doing that. But the portion of the scripture that I want to focus on today is respecting our leaders. And not just respecting our governing leaders, but also respecting leaders in our lives. And so we want to respect our leaders because God has told us to do so. Even in a situation where leaders do things they shouldn't do or go against God, we are still told to respect them. Now, does that mean we listen to what they say if they say to do something instead of what God tells us to do? No, that's where we have civil disobedience as outlined in the book of Daniel. But what we do have to do is respect our leaders. And this is a huge thing in our society today. I don't know if you've ever turned on a news network, but it seems like almost any news network you turn on, radio, TV, YouTube, podcast, whatever it is, there is somebody that the news network is going at. And I'm not going to tell you that you can't listen to those things, because obviously there are other things on television and things like that we consume that have bad content that's not fruitful for our lives. But I would warn you that if you're listening to those things, you don't allow those to be the truths in your heart. You allow what Scripture says to be the truth in your heart. Now, obviously, we should stay up to date. We should have current news. We should know what's going on in the world so we can make a good decision on different areas of our lives. But if we are becoming a part of the ridicule and the insulting nature of what some of these news networks and things like that put out there, we're not becoming a part of the solution. We're becoming a part of the problem. You see, insulting our leaders, insulting whether it be government, whether it be your boss at work, whether it be your parents, whatever it is, you might just seem like one voice and say, it's not that big of a deal. I'm just one voice. But you have influence. And whether you recognize it or not, you have influence, and you have the responsibility to express God's love to the people that you come across. Whether you're insulting the people that you're talking to or you're insulting somebody else, you have the responsibility to express God's love. And I know sometimes with politicians and sometimes leaders that we don't see or we don't know, they can kind of become this figment that we don't personally know. And I would caution you to be careful of that. Because just as much as you need Christ, and just as much as you need a church, and just as much as you need love and grace and forgiveness, so do other people as well. Their leadership does not mean that they do not need Christ, they do not need love, they do not need forgiveness. And so what I would caution you on is don't become so drunk on your freedom that you fail to have respect. In our country, we have freedoms. We have freedoms to say and do things, and it's wonderful. We see what goes on in other countries sometimes, and it's sad, but we have freedoms here that people would love to be able to have. I'm not going to say we have every freedom in the world, but we do have a lot of freedoms here. But if we get so drunk on that freedom that we are just feel like we can do and say whatever we want, then we're going to lack respect for those that God has called us to respect. I'm not saying you have to be happy with every leader. I'm not saying you have to be happy with every decision. I'm not saying you have to go and throw a parade if a law is put in place that you disagree with, or if somebody's voted into office that you disagree with. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is to be respectful. To be respectful and to honor those who are leading us. Because just because somebody's a leader doesn't mean that they are above anything else, all right? They need your respect, not because of what they have told you to do or anything like that, but because God has told you to respect them. And like I said, this goes for governing officials, but I would put this in other areas of your life as well. I would put this in your organization. I would put this in your team. I would put this with your family. I would put this in all areas of your life, wherever there is somebody who has authority or leadership over you. And at the end of the day, we know that we are giving to the government what is the government's, and we're giving to God what is God's. Just like how Jesus said it in Matthew chapter 22 when he says, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, give to God what is God's. And what you give to God is yourself. You are that living sacrifice where you die to the things of this world, the selfish natures and those different kinds of things outlined in Romans 13. You die to those things and you come alive in the love of Jesus Christ. Be a living sacrifice, because all of these things, they can belong to the world. That's fine. They can belong there, but you belong to God. He loves you. He cares about you, and he wants nothing but the best for your life so you can be with him for eternity in heaven. Thanks for listening.